Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Miller from Arise MD, where we're in the business of taking patients and making them citizen scientists. As many of you may know, we've been doing research here, real world research, we call it, on hemp oil. And we're continuing our educational series on hemp as medicine. And I'm joined today by Dr. Raj Gupta, PhD, who's the head of all things scientific, as far as I understand it, at Folium Biosciences, joining us from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Raj, thanks for taking a few minutes of your time on a Friday.
No problem, Adam. My pleasure.
Um, Raj, I want to hit a couple of key pieces here today with you. The way I describe this new era of medicine is that it's the era of patient empowerment. We are now in a point in our evolution in American medicine where we're acknowledging the endocannabinoid system, having dabbled in it in the early 90s. You know, it's a real thing now. And 2018 was a very exciting time for us in medicine. Very rarely does a medical topic become a cultural theme. But that's what happened in 2018. But where does that leave my patients, your valuable customers, our families, you and I, in terms of understanding how to utilize these powerful botanicals? And so the insights that I'm hoping you can offer us today include things like, what does nanoemulsion or water soluble mean? When patients or customers are out in the marketplace looking at the hundreds and hundreds of different labels out there, the reality is many are confused about what to look for. And I think at altitude, the first screening or filter I'd like you and I to help give people is, what should you look for? What are some of the pitfalls in terms of scientific quality or impurity? And then this question mark about nanoemulsion and water solubility. So let's talk to our collective audience about what they should be looking for and maybe what to avoid when it comes to product assessment.
Absolutely, Adam. Well, so what we have seen in the past few years is that the research into endocannabinoid system has been intense. It's well funded, and we know a lot more today than we did barely 10 years ago. And as a result, some of the companies that are heavily focused on R&D with respect to endocannabinoids, like Folium Biosciences, we've been trying to translate what is known regarding our endocannabinoid system into designing the most inexpensive yet effective products. So to that effort, to that extent, we are trying to create cannabinoid containing products that are not wasted upon consumption. So for instance, a nanoemulsion that is water soluble is a form of cannabinoid that is finely divided in a liquid form and delivered to a patient through either a pill or a drink form. In our case, we create soft gels that contain water soluble cannabidiol in precise fixed dosages. And to a patient, it is bioavailable to an extent where 50 to 70% of the drug, cannabinoid in this case, is absorbed into the bloodstream. We cannot say that.
That's significant. Is that significantly more than what a non-water soluble form of hemp oil would deliver?
Absolutely, good point. Cannabidiol, naturally available in oily form, is bioavailable only to about 10 to 15% extent, and therefore 85% of it is wasted, not absorbed by blood. What we have done is, by infusing technology, by making cannabidiol water-soluble nanoemulsion, we have been able to increase the absorption into the bloodstream and therefore increase the effectiveness of the drug by a factor of 3 to 5 times.
Wow, that sounds like value for patients. If we know what the right dosing is for the right person for the right indication.
Absolutely, Adam. The old philosophy was what you ingest is what the dose is, but it's, as you know already, it's not correct. What we ingest is not the dose. The dose is measured by what ends up in the bloodstream, and therefore we have been trying to spend a lot of time and effort into understanding what is an effective dose, which is not what is designed into a product, but what ends up inside your physiology, in your bloodstream. And that is why making water-soluble nanoemulsion is a very effective and inexpensive form of delivering a drug into your bloodstream.
My fear as a clinician is that the marketability of a water-soluble form in terms of incorporation as an active ingredient into products like protein bars or coffee drinks or other sport drinks, that will overshadow the fact that this technology or this way of delivering CBD to the consumer or the patient is predictably going to give them higher blood levels per gel cap.
Higher is relative, Adam. What we want to do is, in our research, where we have mined data over the past 40 years, we have been able to design just the right CBD levels in our soft gels or in our products that is effective, that will do the trick. Now, compared to oil, which is 50% bioavailable, if I'm able to design a product with 3 or 4 times higher absorption, then what that means is that the CBD dose will be 3 to 4 times lower than a corresponding effective dose coming from CBD in oil form. So in a way, we are correcting for higher absorption, and therefore this makes our product inexpensive, easy to afford, as well as effective at the same time.
Yeah, Raj. So that gives us some insight, and clearly, I think we have to say that there is a huge need for more clinical research to understand how this particular form is performing. And I think what you and I've talked most about is the huge need for protocols that are driven by evidence that certain dosages for certain sexes and certain ages and indications that's still something that is really needed, these protocols. But certainly there's a strong argument being made both on the retail and commercial side for nanoemulsion, but also clinically speaking, we have good reason to continue to study this. Talk to us a little bit about, again, thinking about the consumer who's out there, and we're saying it's worth reaching for a water-soluble form first because of its increased bioavailability. What else do you think the educated consumers should be looking for in terms of product labels and weeding out the lower quality products?
Oh, absolutely, Adam. And there's a big push by a responsible company like ours, partners and doctors like you, as well as regulatory agencies on making sure that good products end up in the marketplace. But till that happens, there are plenty of products with misleading claims or with inaccurate dosages. So what we need to do is, first of all, make sure that the claims are supported with scientific data or through approval by regulatory bodies. Number one concern by FDA is the claim that suppliers or marketers make on products where it is not supported by science or data. So a consumer needs to be able to look at claims and ensure that they are supported by collateral, data, science, or some written literature. If they are not able to, then they should consult with their doctor. Number two, most of the CBD products or cannabinoid-based products out there, per FDA, do not contain what they are supposed to contain. For instance, the dosages upon testing are widely varying. And because of the lack of quality enforcement, these products continue to sell through the internet or retailers. So the second thing that the consumer should do is go with reputable, credible companies or consult with their doctors as it relates to the quality of the product that they intend to buy. or just go through their doctor and ask for their referrals, because most of the products, based on latest consumer reports, are upon being tested, are not containing the right amount of cannabinoids. So that's a problem. If you think that you're taking a certain dose, but in reality, the dose can be a lot lower. So in case of doubt, you should consult your doctor, or you should do your own research if you have the background and skill set to do so.
Raj, so there may not be enough of the active ingredients to really get your money's worth, but it sounds like, is there justification for the concern about contaminants such as heavy metals?
Adam, till recently, the hemp extract as well as cannabis extract came from unknown sources from Europe and China. And therefore, the concern, which was a valid concern related to pesticides, heavy metals, and solvents, was legitimate, and in most cases was found to be true. Lately, USA is growing its own hemp cultivar, hemp genetics, grown in Colorado as well as Portland or Oregon. Those genetics are very pristine, they are very safe, and they contain ultra trace to negligible levels of solvents or heavy metals. Some traces, some cultivars grown in Colorado have no solvents, no heavy metals, and no pesticides. So the good news is that with domestic production, we are able to access products that are extremely pure and free from contaminants that the previous products, especially a couple of years ago when they were brought from Europe, did contain. But in any case, a consumer should be able to ask their supplier or their marketer for these test results to absolutely confirm that they're not ingesting contaminants that could be more harmful for your body.
And that would present itself in the form of a certificate of analysis.
The typical result is reported in certificate of analysis, and at the same time, the reputable companies are sending their products to third-party or neutral laboratories for analysis. So knowledgeable consumer is better off asking for a certificate of analysis from the supplier, as well as insisting upon a third-party or a neutral laboratory certificate just to confirm that those results are indeed correct.
Are manufacturers and distributors, retailers required to put whether or not the hemp has been grown in the US or offshore?
Great point, Adam. At this point, we are looking at sources from United States as well as sources from Eastern Europe that are exporting their hemp material to USA. So both sources are legitimate and legal. But a consumer, especially lately, relying on the federal farm bill that supports local hemp cultivation, should go for a domestic hemp source, especially because the supply chain can be traced and therefore the purity and origin of the material can be confirmed. So if I had a choice, I would go for a domestic source of hemp or hemp derived material than to go for imported material where the supply chain is very obscure.
But retailers are not required to have it on the label whether it's grown in the U.S. or the source is grown offshore.
Although they're not required to, it's a pretty substantial marketing advantage for retailers to put on their label whether the hemp is grown in USA or imported. Today, most of the hemp is being grown in USA, and it will continue to change till importation from Europe is completely down to zero.
Raj, it's still a significant investment for some people. We've seen dramatic clinical results in our practice, but we've also seen people that they did not get much benefit. How can someone be sure that the active ingredients? I guess the question that came up in our space was really shelf life and stability. Is there there's one term called shelf life. The other is stability of active ingredients. And I'm wondering if in general, there is a steady decline so that if you say it has a shelf life of 18 months, sure, it's meeting some minimum standard, but how much less potent is a hemp gel cap, at 12 months versus the time it leaves your manufacturing facility?
Adam, the good news is that the consumer or the patient need not worry about these details because regulatory requirements describe what we are able to claim at the end of the shelf life. So, for instance, a soft gel manufactured at 25 milligrams of cannabidiol needs to contain at least 90% of the label claim by the end of its shelf life. And therefore, 18 months later, which happens to be the typical shelf life of a soft gel with CBD in it, you would still have 22.5 milligrams of CBD if you started with 25 milligrams of CBD. So that's the good news. They don't need to worry, especially with credible manufacturers, because we take care of ensuring at least 90% of the label claim by the end of the shelf life. And that applies to other dosage forms like tinctures and capsules as well.
Raj, somebody's going to hear this and say, hey, these guys seem to be pretty straightforward and they know their stuff. I like Dr. Gupta and his handle of the science here. I would like to go to somebody in his network. Certainly our practice is within the Folium Biosciences network. But if people go to Folium's website, do you have a list of brands that you support?
Well, so the bad news, Adam, is that we are a wholesale supplier and we do not sell directly to consumers. We are not licensed or authorized to sell directly to consumers. But the good news is that we have a list of distributors, not only in Colorado, but in outside states as well.
Raj, thank you so much. And I hope you'll come back and contribute again to this series that we're doing called Hemp as Medicine. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, Adam. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.